Listen, baby, let's talk about conflict and how it's time for you to stop running from it. I get it. Conflict feels like a real ouch. It is a check to your ego if you consider it so. And most of us, we do, right? When we run into a space where conflict is presented, we want to run because we feel like it's telling us we're not good enough, or the idea that we had is not great enough, and something enough, right? Not something enough. That's how we see conflict. And when that happens, we get in this defensive state, or we decide to run and avoid it. I'm here talking to you about leaning into the conflict. There was an example given. Someone asked me a question, and I'll tell you what the scenario was, and I'll also share with you what my response was. The scenario was at work, and they were sharing their idea, right? Don't worry, I have permission to share this. They were sharing their idea, and what ended up happening was that someone challenged their idea. And they're like, there you go, challenging my idea. You don't even know what you're talking about, right? The defenses went up. And in that moment, the person responded with this disdain for the question being asked by leaning back and not even responding, basically just acting like the question didn't even exist. Okay. And so in our session, myself as a transformational coach, my job was to shift the perspective. And so what I pointed out was the conflict avoidance, and the fact that the question in and of itself was a learning opportunity, right? Instead of becoming defensive when someone asks a question, or becoming offended when someone asks a question about your thoughts, right? Lean in and try to understand where the question came from. And of course, sometimes my clients want examples and I give it to them, right? So an example of what that could look like is saying, okay, well, that's an interesting question. Help me to understand where that came from. Help me to understand a scenario in which that question would apply, so that way I can get a better understanding of how to respond, or how we can build an infrastructure to respond to challenges such as this, right? You're leaning in, but you're not just providing lip service. You legit are leaning in with an open mind, removing the judgment, removing the offense, removing all of the things that would block you from really hearing where this question came from, and using it as a catalyst for your growth. You're seeking to understand for the purpose of advancement. That is the thing that conflict allows us to do. It presents an opposition to your thoughts that then opens the door for you to learn and elevate. One of the things that I was thinking about as I was reflecting on that conversation was an elevator. I have like the weirdest scenario sometimes, but I'm going to give it to y'all because why not? Conflict can be seen as an elevator. You're waiting for the elevator door to open. And so initially, when conflict arrives, right, the elevator comes to your main floor, you see the door is closed. It doesn't open right away. It comes down. Right? That's when conflict first hits you. The initial response is you're shut down, you're shut off, you don't want to be bothered. That's the closed door. Shortly thereafter, right, you have to do a real quick assessment of how you're feeling in the moment, because shortly thereafter, there's going to be the opportunity on the other side of the closed door. And that's when the elevator door opens. And now you have a choice. Are you going to step in and elevate yourself? Or are you going to just stay there and say, I'm not going to deal with it, right? I invite you to step into the elevator. Get curious. I already gave you examples of some questions to ask. Get curious and learn to advance yourself in the midst of conflict. Lean in, step in, go forward, and grow. In the meantime, y'all know the saying, baby. Never stop growing. As a closing, if you want more of this, make sure you're following me on whatever platform you're watching this on. If you want some extras, then make sure that on this website below, you go on and sign up for my newsletter. And if you are ready to advance, then book with me at that same website location, okay? In the meantime, y'all, never stop growing, baby. Bye.